Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture. To join today or for more information, go to kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
Good morning and welcome to Farm Factor on Ag Aim in Kansas. I'm your host, Conrad Capus. In this segment, we continue our story over the Agriculture Retailers Association and Kansas State University agronomy-based educational field day on the Kansas State University campus. The event brought participants from various backgrounds to learn from presenters about weed identification, insects and diseases, crop growth and development, and more. Dr. Kevin Donnelly of Kansas State discussed the importance of weed identification.
Well, this section is on weed identification. We've worked through a number of parts. First of all, we kind of had a little class session on just parts of plants and how plants in general grow, different emergence types between grasses and broadleaf plants, and relating that both to crops and then to weeds, and how those differences may affect our ability to control various weed species, grasses versus broadleaf plants and so forth. And then we move on to actually have about 40 plants out, seedling plants, and so the participants have been currently in the process of going through and working with a key and trying to see if they can identify the weeds that we have out.
Weed identification is important for producers and consultants to help procure ways to solve weed-related issues in fields.
A lot of the participants in the workshop today are involved with retail sales or with crop consulting, and so they're out dealing every day in the summertime with problems that need to be solved, and that could involve weed identification or managing crops in various ways. So we think that a lot of what they've learned today they'll be able to actually take to the field. Some of them do not have maybe formal training in weed science, and so this is kind of a crash course to get them a little more comfortable with giving them some additional tools to help with their day-to-day jobs.
David Mengel is a professor of soil fertility and nutrient management at Kansas State University. His presentation discussed the problems with soil fertility for Kansas producers.
Soils are becoming more acid over time because of the addition of nitrogen fertilizer. And we haven't done as good a job as we perhaps should have of managing that acidity. So consequently, we really wanted to emphasize the point that they need to look at the variability in soil pH and soil properties out in the field and do some variable rate liming to adjust that. And we're finding that it's not unusual to get a 10 to 20% yield increase long term from the use of lime and adjusting that pH. The other thing that we're dealing with is we have a problem associated with low potassium. Again, it's something that's been developing over time as we continually crop our soils and as we intensify our cropping and bring in new crops like soybeans in the state. They tend to remove large amounts of nutrients and they just need to be replaced. And we're just reached that point in the last few years that we're really becoming aware of it, and it's becoming an issue that has to be addressed.
Dr. Mengel recommends soil testing for long-term soil quality. Knowledge of the amount of phosphorus, potassium, calcium, and other elements in the farm soil determine pros and cons for future growing seasons.
We invest a large amount of money in fertilizers and different management practices, and we need to start thinking about ways that we can ensure that we're getting a good return on our investment. So we talk about soil testing from the standpoint of making fertilizer recommendations, but we ought to be thinking also about keeping track of our soil tests over long periods of time on a particular area in the field to look and see, is that soil test changing, and if so, is it going up? Is it going down? Do we need to increase our rates? Do we need to decrease our rates because of excess accumulation? And that's going to be one of the key things. And the other aspect of that is plant analysis. It's a tool which we've never used in Kansas very much, but things are constantly changing, and it can be an early warning system for us if, for example, we begin to see problems associated with clean air and the lack of sulfur, which is one that is actually occurring right now.
Thank you for watching this program over the Renewable Fuel Standard and Educational Field Days. For more of Farm Factor, or if you want to view this episode again, visit us on www.agaiminkansas.com, or you can like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter. So have a good day with good luck.
Closed captioning brought to you by Kansas Soybean Commission, The Soybean Checkoff, Progress, powered by Kansas farmers.